Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us, we have got two really interesting knives that were sent to me by Dirk Werning from his channel, Dirk Werning. If you have not subscribed, the link is in the bio, in the description. Please go check him out and subscribe to his channel. Not only is he a super nice guy, but he's got amazing knives on that channel. I mean, just phenomenal stuff. So thank you, Dirk. I appreciate it. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, why don't you do that? I'd love to have you here on a regular basis. So let's talk about the Demko AD20s. These are, in fact, MG AD20s, which means that the blades are machine ground instead of hand ground. One is G10, the other is full tie. One is 3V, the other is CPM 20CV. I wrestled for a long time with how to make this review. Because these knives are incredibly, wildly popular, and I kind of don't get it. I know. I'm supposed to, but... so let's talk about what I do love about them. We'll get that out of the way first. What I do love about them is the shark lock. I watched Demko design these on Instagram from basic initial design all the way through to production. And holy crap, is that a good lock. I love his stuff. I love the scorpion lock on the AD15, which I unfortunately don't have anymore, so I can't show it to you. And of course, I love the triad lock that he put on his, his custom 4Maxes and his custom AD10s. We will come back to the AD10 in a little while. I think maybe I'm a victim of the hype. I was expecting unicorns and rainbows or something, and instead, what I got was a couple of knives. Well made, great knives to be sure, but knives. And I know that's the truth about a lot of things, but it's weird for me because usually when I get a hold of something, Anyway, you guys know I'm pretty passionate about knives. Let's talk about the shark lock, and then we'll do some basic specs. And then what I'd love to do at the end is offer you guys some alternatives that cost a lot less money. And maybe that's part of my problem. The full tie version here, now I know these are mid-tech. They're machine made and then put together by hand by the Demkos, and that's very cool. But this is $625 and this is $425. That's a lot of money. It is. Now, I love his stuff. I would, I get it. But anyway, they're very expensive. And because they are small batch, they are also nigh on to impossible to find, which is very frustrating. I was going to buy one. I was going to buy one of these, but no, I'm not, because I can't find one anywhere. And I was going to buy one to review, and I probably would have felt the same way about it. But there's a frustration involved with not being able to get your hands on something when you really want to try it out. That's not Demko's fault. That's the market. I'm glad that he has such an amazing following that these things fly off the shelves every time they touch down. But still, that was a little annoying. Luckily, Dirk came through. The shark lock is a bar that runs this way along the knife. It has a pin that sticks down right here, which locks into this spot in the blade. Right? You can hear it snap into place. And it's a relatively large, flat spot that connects to the blade, so it gives a lot of tension. And if you push on this, which is why I think it's shaped that way, you don't need to, but you could. If you push on this, it's never going to move. You do not accidentally grab it because it is far enough back. So when your thumb's up here on the jimping on the blade, you don't risk accidentally disengaging the lock. I know a lot of people aren't in love with frame locks or axis locks or bar locks as they're called now, or even the triad lock because of where it is. And one thing this lock does enable is a ton of fidget factor, right? These are really fun knives to open and close. I love this one, not just because it's full tie, but because of the extra deployment hole. The thumb studs, of course, work beautifully, but I like the hole. That makes me happy. I keep coming back to the price, though. That's okay. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So let's get the basic specs out of the way. For those of you that do want one, look, get one. There's nothing wrong here at all. They're really interesting. And of course, you're not going to get, you could get the AD20.5 if, again, you could find one with the shark lock. I held one the other day. It's a little too small for me. But as an EDC for most people, I think it really is. In the AD20.5 is a great knife. If I get a hold of one, I'll of course do a full review. These are identical in dimensions, so we'll just go ahead and use this one. You get 1, 2, 3, 3 point, little over 3 1/4 of cutting on just at 3.75 of overall blade length. Of course, these are saber ground with a very steep, sort of drop / clip point. The knife itself is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 inches long, a little over. The grip area from behind that swell, 3 3/4, right, which fits my hand perfectly. And for most of you, you may even have a little knife left over, right? But for me, I lock in just nicely. Very much like the AD10, there is a spot up here at the front where you can put your finger if you're bearing down on stuff, but you're going to want to be really careful, much like the AD10, because there's nothing to stop you. So if you're cutting this way and you come forward, you do risk dragging your finger across the blade, which is not recommended at all. Both of them have a very Andrew Demko pocket clip, which means there is, 9 to an inch of knife sticking out of your pocket. And for a knife this big, that's okay. You guys know I prefer deep carry, but Demko tends to like a lot of knife sticking out, I think, for grip, to pull it from the pocket. I get that, even if it isn't exactly my jam. They have very nice pivots. The pins that hold in the shark lock are very nicely flush. The screws are sunk below the body, on both knives, which is really nice. There are a lot of nice features. Got these great barrel spacers back here, right, as you can see on both knives. And of course, as I said, the action is superb. Because of the flat up through here, right, and the saber style grind, these don't have a lot of room to drop down, but they are ground to a very nice edge. And of course, in 3V and CPM 20 CV, you're not going to need to be sharpening that often, which is very nice. So, again, if you want one of these, go get one. No, really, there's nothing here to make me suggest that you shouldn't. In fact, there's a lot here to make me suggest that you should. But let's assume that you're like most people, even me, in my reality, and 400 1/4 and 600 1/4 is an awful lot of money, particularly for a knife that you cannot find. What choices are there? So we're going to close this one and set it up here. And we will close this one and set it over here. Let's say you want a knife that's this tough, but you have less than $200. Well, you can get one of those. This is the Cold Steel AD10, as I mentioned earlier. This is 85% of a custom Demko AD10. I've held them for 180 bucks. I've seen them on sale recently for as low as $125 on Amazon. Now, this is the old one, the first generation that is hollow ground, and I will never get rid of it because that is the truth of it. I prefer hollow in this knife. This is the triad lock. It is the same thumb studs, or virtually the same thumb studs as you get on the new MG20s, AD20s. This is a fantastic pocket knife for less than $200. But let's say that's a little too much money. That's okay. Cold Steel still has you. For around $100, you could get a Recon 1. Same triad lock. Same S35 VN for the blade. Similar, but not the same size. This is actually lighter. You can beat this knife up. Well, you guys know. The information's out there on YouTube. So less than 100 or right at 100, a couple $100. If you don't have the money for one of these, or if you just need a knife that you can take camping and hiking and backpacking and beat the ever-loving snot out of, and you can't get one of these because you can't get one right now, here are a couple of options, but I have some other alternatives. If you are not adverse to frame locks, and let's say you had about $300 to spend, right around, you could get yourself the ZT-0308. Now, it is a frame lock. It is titanium. It is CPM 20 CV, which is the same as the all-tie Demko. Is this as tough as these? No. Is it as tough even as the Cold Steels? Probably not in some ways. Is it as good a carry and as big and as beefy? Yeah, it's about $308. Finally, if you want like the 3V tool steel toughness and you want a knife that feels a lot like this in hand, about $250 you could get yourself the new Adamas in crew wear. This, in fact, is the only knife that has ever, and is currently challenging this one for my go-to camp and outdoor knife. We'll see what the camping and outdoor season brings us. Next year, this time, I may be saying that this is the knife that I take with me all the time. I'm not sure. Now, why am I showing these to you? It's not because I don't want you to get a Demko. Andrew, I love your stuff. It's because right now you can't really, and also these are very expensive. So there were some options for those of you that might want something similar without the fancy shark lock. But you can, of course, you know, get a Demko lock for a lot less money. That's up to you. If you want to spend in the $400 range, you can always get one of these. I do love Demko stuff. I do. I love my 4Max. This, of course, is one of the older Italian ones in CPM 20CV. There's this, right? And that. I'm not in any way decrying the maker. I am simply saying that there are alternatives if you can't get one of these right now. So, having said all that, what's my final analysis? Well, now, okay, there is something called the shark's foot blade, which is kind of a sheep's foot Wharncliffe thing going on that may make that more interesting to me. In the end, these are fantastic knives that I think if the world itself had been a little less hype crazy about them, I probably would have been more into them when they landed. Like I said, the way people talk about these, I was expecting them to basically clean my house and make breakfast for me, and instead, what I got was another great usable work knife from the Demkos, which is awesome. If I was to get one, I would save my pennies and get myself the full tie version because it just feels a little tougher, looks a little better to me. Overall, I like it better than the G10 version, but that's just me. You know, these are unlined G10 scales, which does save on some weight, but you know, for $425, I think I would rather sell another knife or something and spend the extra $200 and get myself the full tie. That's just me. That's just the way it goes sometimes. The knife community goes nuts for something. Those of us that do these reviews get their hands on it, and some people love it, and then some of us kind of don't. That's okay. I don't have to love everything. If you love this, go get one. You will really enjoy it. I am happy that I had the opportunity to look at them. Once again, Dirk Werning's information will be down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about these knives or any of the knives that I showed you as alternatives, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'd be happy to help you guys out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.